Hey guys, we're going to talk about the marginal propensity to consume, the marginal propensity to save, and the multiplier effect in this video. So let's get it underway. First of all, gotta establish what disposable income is. Disposable income is the amount of money you have left after paying certain taxes. So generally, it'll be your income minus taxes equals DI, disposable income. That's the amount of money you have to consume on additional goods and services after paying things like taxes. So, let's look at how that relates to everything else we were that I'm going to bring up in this video. The marginal propensity to consume and the marginal propensity to save. So that's marginal propensity to save/consume. Alright, so let's decipher this. Marginal means additional. Propensity, likelihood. Sorry for my atrocious handwriting. And save and consume, that's pretty self-explanatory. So remember marginal meant additional. So let's say your disposable income was equal to $5,000. You were allowed to spend $5,000. That's how much you have left of your income after paying taxes and all that. That's terribly low, but I'm just using this as an example. So DI equals 5,000. Now let's say you got a raise or something, and now your DI is equal to 5,100. Really small raise, but so you got an additional $100. So your marginal propensity to consume is the likelihood of what you're going to consume given additional disposable income. So of that additional $100 that you just gained, how much are you going to save, which is the marginal propensity to save, and how much are you going to consume, which is the marginal propensity to consume. So marginal, additional. In this case, the additional is our $100 over here. Propensity, likelihood to save and consume. Because likelihood, propensity, just because it's a number, you're not necessarily going to spend, let's say, $80 of that 100 and save 20. It's not going to be a strict number that you're going to bide your life by. It's just an estimate and for use in economics. So let's go back to that $100 here. So let's say I'm going to spend $80 of that 100 spend, which all same thing as consume, and $20 I'm going to save. So marginal propensity to save and consume will always add up to 1. That's just how they analyze this. That's how they base it. So think about it this way. So if they both add up to 1, this is pretty easy for us since we have the number 100. So 80 plus 20 will equal 100. But let's take this down a notch. 80 is how much of 100? According in terms of 1, it's 0.8. And then savings would be 0.2. Because 0.8 plus 0.2 is obviously 1. And that 8 actually means 80. And this actually means 20. 20. We just have to shrink it down so that it's in terms of 1, so that it fits this equation. So that $100, given our marginal propensity to consume is 0.8, and our marginal propensity to save is 0.2. So if I get an extra $100 in income, I'm going to spend 80, and I'm going to save 20. Oops, that puts C. I'm going to spend 20. Silly me. Alright, so where does that relate to something that I mentioned earlier, the multiplier effect? Well, let's think about it this way. You have that new $100. Since we saved 20 of that, we have 20 over here. So we have 80 bucks left. So we spend that 80 bucks over here at Burger King. Let me try and draw a burger. It's terrible. Uh, so we got a burger, a yellow, disgusting burger, and we spent $80 on like a really nice gourmet fast food restaurant. So that $80, imagine this. Where's that going to go in the restaurant? Well, let's say that the restaurant uses that to pay its employees. So there, $80 to an employee. That's another person. And they also will save some of that and spend some of that. Let's assume that they're also going to spend $80 of it, or 0.8 of it, and save 0.2 of it. So let's calculate this. What's 0.8 of 80? 64. So they're going to spend 64, and they're going to save the remaining 16. Let me highlight this so that it's more simpler to see, where this is going to be the savings, this color, and I'll make the savings, that color will be the consumption, and this color will be the savings, based on the MPC and MPS above. Then somebody else is going to have that $64, because let's say you spend that $64 at Walmart. Walmart's going to use it to pay an employee, and now that employee is going to spend that $64 somewhere. So let's go back again and find 8/10 of 64. 51.2. So they're going to spend 51.2, and they're going to save the remaining, what's that? 8.8 plus 4, 12.8. So they're going to save that 12.8, which is 0.2 of 64, and they're going to spend this $51.2. And this keeps going on and on and on until eventually that money goes to so little that it's like you can't even spend it. It's like a penny. Okay, so that brings us to the multiplier effect. So think about that. Just spending $100 created so much. It gave somebody $80 to spend. Then they gave somebody else $64 to spend. Then it gave somebody else $51.2 to spend. It created a lot more of an effect in the economy than just $100. And that's the multiplier effect. So how are we going to calculate this, the multiplier? How much money goes to our economy and its impact? Well, it's pretty simple. 1 over MPS, or 1 over 1 minus MPC. So why is it like that? Well, because think about this. The multiplier degrades. Like it gets lower and lower because we save some of the money. So we calculate this based on how much we save. The more we save, the lower the multiplier is going to be because we spend less and it travels through the economy less. And the less we spend, and the less we save, that means it'll go through the economy more, so it'll be a higher multiplier. So let's calculate this with an example. Oops. So given that we're using the same numbers, 0.8 for our MPC and 0.2 for our MPS, 1 over the 0.2 is equal to 5. The multiplier is 5. So if $100 is invested in the economy, times 5, is going to have a $500 impact. Also, let's say the MPS, instead of 0.2, let me get rid of that. Let's say the MPS was 0.5, so that means MPC has to be 0.5 because they have to add on to 1. 1 over 0.5 is going to equal 2. So $100 invested in the economy is going to have a $200 impact. Because look, now instead of saying 20 cents of that, instead of saving $20, they're saving $50. So they're spending less. And if they're spending less, that money isn't going to be given to more employees, and it's going to end a shorter route. So instead of going on infinitely, starting from that 100 to a penny, it'll end a lot faster because that won't be $100. That'll be something like 50. So that's the trouble through the economy, and that's how you calculate it. But there's another formula. It wasn't just 1 over MPS. It was also 1 over 1 minus MPC. And now, if you're good at math, you probably realize why. It's simple algebra. Since MPC and MPS add up to 1, if you subtract 1 from MPC, you get MPS. So this essentially that 1 minus MPC, that's the same thing as MPS. It's just what you're going to use if you're given MPC instead of MPS. It's just a little simple algebra. So let's say we're told that the marginal propensity to consume was, 0.7. What's 1 over 1 minus 0.7? It would be 1 over 0.3. Now let's do that. 1 divided by 0.3, bam, 3.33. So that's the impact, that's the multiplier that money will have. So that means, let's say there's $100 invested in the economy, $100 new dollars, times 3.33, bam, you got $333 of impact from that $100. So this is going to be a huge part of what we're going to be doing in the coming up lessons, because it's a basis for a lot of our bailouts and how we regulate our economies, mostly from the government standpoint. Because let's say the government spends $1 million. Now imagine if the marginal propensity to consume was 0.8. So the marginal propensity to save was equal to 0.2. 1 over 0.2 equals 5. So multiply that 5 times 1 million. They made a $5 million impact from spending 1 million. And that's a way of stimulating our economy, by spending money. So that's going to be a basis for a lot of future economics and a lot of future lessons. So keep all of this in mind, and check out the reviews and notes if you're not fully understanding, and stay tuned.